This contraption is my DIY mobile YouTube studio, and I've been using this for the last 9 months to film over 100 videos without the hassle of configuring and breaking down my setup each time. Today I want to walk through how I put this puppy together and show you how to build your own as well. Let's get into it. So I built this with a little bit of inspiration from Caleb Pike, with some tweaks for my personal needs and what I already owned. Big shout out to Caleb for the jumpstart, and I'll be linking to everything discussed in this video below so you can follow along. A quick word on why I built this in the first place. First and foremost, the goal here is to reduce friction. I am a firm believer that creativity and the act of content creation should be as frictionless as possible. The easier it is to just sit down and press record, the less likely you will make an excuse to not make something that day. If you ever tried to make content, you know the feeling. You have to set up your tripod, rummage through the closet to find where you put the video light, set up that video light, fiddle with your softbox, dial in your settings, get the right angle, tweak your settings some more, and then finally, you sit down and hit record. You spend the next 20 minutes struggling to remember what you're supposed to say, you make more mistakes than Elon in his first week at Twitter, but finally, you've recorded your video. You break down your setup, you pop your memory card into the computer, and you realize you forgot to turn on the microphone. You're about this close to chucking your camera out the window and giving up your dream to be the next Peter McKinnon. If only it was as easy as flipping on the camera. Well, that is why I built out this rig. Since I've streamlined this process, I've been able to record over 100 videos in the last 120 days. My Instagram and my TikTok have each grown over 100,000 followers, and if you hit that subscribe button right now, YouTube may be next. The second reason I built this is to have the ability to quickly film from multiple angles here in my little home studio. You've got this main angle that you're most accustomed to seeing. We also have this angle when we want to switch things up. Want to get a third angle for when we're sitting at the computer for recording those tutorials? No problem. We can even swap to the overhead rig with ease for those top-down shots, and if we roll it to the other side of the studio, we can set up for the photo backdrop for that more kind of classic documentary look. But enough of the why. Let's talk about what you'll need. At the core of the rig is an impact folding wheeled base stand, which is essentially a C-stand on wheels. The wheels allow for easy maneuverability to achieve all of those 4 angles that we were just talking about. We're putting a lot of weight on this thing, so the next step is to load up the base with 2 15-pound sandbags. The ones I've linked below come pre-filled with sand, and they're super affordable at about $19 each. Our next step is to attach a super clamp with a ratchet handle, along with a 6-inch extension arm and spigot. This is going to be our mounting point for the camera. It comes with 1/4-20 and 3/8 threads for you to attach your tripod head. I'm using a slick 45 LP ball head, but feel free to choose something cheaper if you'd like. And we're going to talk about the camera that I'm mounting to this, along with a very secret trick that I've been using on this rig in just a second. So stick around. Now that we've got the camera mounting point, let's next rig up our audio. Above the super clamp, I've mounted a 6-inch jaw vice grip, which extends to the left side of the rig. To attach to the end of that, we'll attach a grip head. With that in place, we'll next install the microphone boom arm. I've gone about as cheap as possible with this one, so this is the newer option, which is about $10 on Amazon. And while we've cheaped out on the boom arm, I have certainly not skimped out on the audio otherwise. I'm using the Shure SM7B with Cloud Lifter because it just sounds great and it does a fantastic job of isolating out all of that outside noise. In my mind, the Cloud Lifter is absolutely a must, so I have jerry-rigged that to the rig with some Velcro because I love Velcro. But if you do want to go a cheaper route on the microphone, I'll link some alternative options in the description. Now the SM7B, like many mics, does require an audio interface. So I have opted for the Zoom H4n Pro, which is mounted on a friction arm to the right side of the camera, allowing for monitoring of all of my levels. I like this option because it runs on AA batteries, and I always just have a few Amazon Basics rechargeable batteries sitting and waiting and ready to go so that there's no cords ever lying around with this setup. Now this may sound a little bit blasphemous to some, but I then use an auxiliary cord to run this audio directly into the camera and bake in the audio directly in. Because again, this is all about reducing friction and ain't nobody got time to waste syncing audio in post. Above the super clamp, I have another friction arm supporting a Atomos Ninja V to monitor my shot and make sure that everything is dialed in. Above that, I have a 40-inch extension grip arm with another grip head. Now this typically stays collapsed down, but it does allow me to extend it for those top-down shots. Mounted underneath the camera, we are attaching yet another friction arm, which will support an iPad holder. When I'm shooting my vertical videos for Instagram, TikTok, and Shorts, I use an iPad to display some notes or my talking points or even an entire script. Yet again, in an effort to reduce friction, I find that having notes or a script really reduces both filming time and editing time. On that note, I do have one final secret that I have attached to this rig that I told you I'd be holding out for, but before we do that, I do want to talk about the lighting setup. In many mobile rigs like this, folks typically add a lightweight light to the primary stand. And while I understand the desire to keep everything in one place, I found that this limits the versatility and the power of the lighting setup. So I have instead opted for a separate folding wheeled base stand with the Nanlite Forza 300B, which is typically powered by a V-mount battery to avoid any cables on the ground again. This does mean that I have to move 2 stands around, but it also gives me the ability to use this light on its own around the studio for all of my B-roll shots. Now, speaking of lighting, I also want to thank Nanlite for sponsoring today's video. Nanlite has been supporting my content creation long before becoming a sponsor, and I've been using their lights for years. They're constantly listening to feedback from the photo and video community to improve their lights and raise the bar with their lighting solutions with things like the crazy Forza 60C and their Pavo tubes. I use both of these along with the key light, my 300B, to add those pops of color and accents around the background of my shots. Be sure to pop over to nanliteus.com to get that lighting setup super dialed. So for this rig, I essentially have 2 quick different setup modes. The first is to simply swap the camera into vertical orientation, which is of course how I'm filming all of my Reels, TikToks, and YouTube Shorts, which by the way, if you want a separate video and how I get those set up, drop a show me in the comments. And like many folks here on YouTube, I am of course rocking the Sony a7S III paired with a Sony 24-70 G Master version 2 to film all of my talking head content. The second filming mode is for my long form videos, such as this one, and it involves my secret trick for this rig. That is a teleprompter, which is the Glide Gear TMP 100. This has been such a game changer for improving both my filming and also reducing my editing workflow. It allows you to have your iPad as this nice big viewing experience, so you're not squinting all small at the screen like many of the different iPhone versions of teleprompters out there. I found this makes it so that I can be a lot more natural when reading from the iPad. I'm pairing this with the Prompt Smart Pro app, which auto advances as you're speaking to it. Bring this all together, and this little Frankenstein of a rig has made it so much easier to create content. And I think it's really helped to improve the quality quite a bit as well. And if you think that the quality of this video was good, I bet you'll like watching this video next. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.